I was going to say there's a lot of sore bodies there, and you don't need to just be a sports player to do some damage to your body. I was going to say you can do some damage.
That's a segue.
You can also do some damage sitting at your computer for long periods of time if you're not sitting correctly. And to tell us how to reduce the risk of injury while sitting at your workstation, we have Erin Hunter-Hin, occupational therapist from Langer Chiropractic, talking to us just about that. Good morning and welcome back to Wake Up WA.
Good morning, thank you very much.
Back for the new year. Thanks for getting up nice and early this morning.
That's all right.
It's been a bit chilly
Monday.
starts, hasn't it? Now, Erin, Anita's
Going to
100%
get
correct. We had students from, I think it was the ECU or UWA, one of the university's chiropractic schools, were actually there on site in the competitors' tent giving the surfers a rub down and making sure everything was aligned correctly. But you don't have to be an elite athlete to do yourself some damage.
Oh, absolutely not, yeah. I mean, obviously you can do a lot of damage with sporting injuries and quite specific kind of injuries relating to that, but you can do as much, if not more, damage from basically not moving enough and long-term poor posture.
Okay, so what are the most common types of conditions you see related to the computer workstation?
We see a lot of neck and shoulder tension. That's probably the most common. When that gets significantly bad, that leads then to headaches and migraines and those sort of problems. We see a lot of right shoulder issues from mouse use particularly, poor position in that way. Then you've got your occupational overuse, your forearm extensor, and even your carpal tunnel syndrome, which is relating down to your hands and that sort of area.
Right.
So what do people need to consider then? So you're about to sit down at your computer. Does the thought process, should it start before you even sit down? Is the actual station itself important?
Absolutely, yeah. You need to, more than anything, set up your workstation correctly. So before you even sit down, there needs to be a certain level of thought that's gone into it, and you need to have, basically, when you're sitting at your workstation, you need to be in as close to a neutral position as possible. So essentially, your elbows need to be underneath your shoulders, your head and your feet need to be facing in the same direction. Yes.
That's what I'm doing wrong. Yep.
Yes. And yeah, basically, if your neck should be, you should be looking straight ahead. You shouldn't be looking up or down. Exactly. And there should be no sort of ongoing or prolonged twisting when you're sitting. So as long as your situation is as close to neutral as possible, then you're going to be putting as less stress through your body as possible.
Okay.
Now, what's the deal with the bottom of your arms here? Where my hands go across the top of the desk, where my hand comes in contact with the desk, I tend to find that gets quite sore there.
Absolutely.
Is that a matter of me positioning myself correctly, or is it a matter of having a device of some description to prevent that happening?
It depends. Most times you can actually retrain yourself quite easily without the use of a gel wrist support or anything like that. But essentially, same process again, your wrists should be in a neutral position. So if you've got them resting on a table, for example, like that, coming up, then that's going to irritate that area, and that leads to your carpal tunnel syndrome, because that leads to an inflammation there, which then irritates the nerve going into the hand. And anyone who's had carpal tunnel syndrome will tell you it's not a nice one.
Quite common, isn't it?
My mum.
It's reasonably common, yeah.
It's terrible. If she flicks her hand, it hurts and all the rest of it. So,
And picking up heavy objects.
I think we spoke last year about moving for 5 minutes once an hour or something like that. What's the current thoughts on how often you should be moving while you're at
So
your desk?
basically, you need to be moving every 10 to 15 minutes. After 10 to 15 minutes of your muscles being in one position, they essentially start to lose blood supply, and that's when you get muscle damage taking place. So yeah, you need to be moving every 10 to 15 minutes. That might be, we generally suggest stretching once an hour, so that might only be a 2-minute sort of process, but you're looking at stretching once an hour, but you need to be up and down as much as you possibly can be. You need to do things like put your printer in a separate position so that you actually have to get up and get the paper from the printer. You know, like you need to set up a whole lot of situations so that you're moving every 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay, so that's the movement thing. So what type of equipment can people use to set up their workstation in a safe way?
Well, the most important thing in terms of actually setting up your workstation is a chair and getting the right sort of chair. So the most common mistake people make is buying your sort of executive type chairs, which look really snazzy but aren't adjustable. You need to have basically adjustable everything on your chair. So adjustable backrest height, adjustable backrest angle, obviously adjustable chair height, which most of them have. They need to be on wheels.
They have to be on wheels.
Yeah, if you basically if you don't have a chair on wheels, you're going to be reaching and stretching and getting things instead of actually moving to the position, which puts your body under stress. So definitely on wheels.
What about those weird looking ergonomic chairs that you have to kneel on? Are they any good, or are they?
Yeah, they can be. They've definitely got their position. Basically, yeah, that creates a tilting of the pelvis forward, which then allows for a straightening of the spine, which is a good thing to do. But you need to be careful with things like that does load up your knees. So anyone with any sort of arthritic problems in the knees or any sort of stress-related issues there, that's not the right thing for them.
So, okay, we can adjust our posture, can get some equipment and bits and pieces. Is there anything else people can be doing to try and minimise these impacts?
Well, it really, with anything like this, with anything with sort of poor posture, it's about setting up the right sort of lifestyle habits. So it's things like making sure you're exercising regularly outside of work as well. So you're at least doing your 20 to 30 minutes of walking per day. Swimming, things like that is obviously a fantastic thing.
I haven't done that.
Haven't quite got to that in the year yet. Well, that sort of thing is really, really important. Making sure that you do things like take a lunch break. So people will tend, if you're busy, just sit there and work through. Obviously, that's not going to be good for stress levels and for physical situations. Something that's really important for the males of the population is to take the wallet out of the back pocket. A lot of people sit on their wallet, which then creates an imbalance. So it's something simple like taking the wallet out of the back pocket and putting it in the drawer.
What if you have a wallet that's totally empty?
Your pelvis only needs the slightest amount of difference on one side to the other to have quite a significant effect up the spine.
So girls, don't sit on your handbags either, because that will create some significant imbalance.
You've seen the size of my handbags, so I don't think that would work.
Yes, you keep your ergonomic chair in your bag, don't you?
You could do. I've got the same size
Erin,
bag.
what else can people do to help themselves at the workplace?
Well, it's really about that sort of lifestyle situation. It's about creating the right, the right situation while you're at the workstation, moving as much as you possibly can, and then doing as much as you can outside of the work setting to create the right, so that the fact that you're sitting in a position for long periods of the day doesn't have an ongoing long-term effect in terms of your posture.
That's great.
Organise your workstation, force yourself into a situation where you have to move around a little bit, get up and have a bit of a flick and a shake every 15, 20 minutes.
Yep.
It should be
10
much
to 15.
better. 10 to 15 minutes, there you go.
Great.
Is this all this jotted down in point form somewhere we can put on our website or something?
It can be. It can be. We can do that.
We'll get that up and running because obviously it's hard to take in, especially this time of the morning. Erin, thank you so much for coming in this morning. I almost called you Erin McNaught. So we've got Barbara McNaught's coming in a little bit later on. There's nothing wrong with that. Erin McNaught.
It's a nice name.
Lovely lady.
Thank you for joining us. We have to go to a break. We'll be back with more straight after this.
Sit up straight.